Yes, here we go. It's week 7 in the NFL. It's crazy to think already it's week 7. It's coming up on the end of October. Johnny Montalbano, Nick Morgasen with you. Nick, it's another Football Friday.
I can't believe we're in week 7. Holy cow.
I know. I did my Monty moment on college football as they enter the second half of the season. They're coming down the stretch, and now we're almost approaching the halfway point in the NFL season. You know what? Take it and enjoy it because it goes by quicker and quicker every year. But I know as far as our two local teams, look, we're at the end of October and we're playing relevant football, both the Jets and the Giants. And we'll see if we think they both can come out with a win, as well as all the games here for a Football Friday. And of course, folks, I do have Hank Indictor's picks, so don't worry. Even though he can't be with us today, I do have his picks. Hank and I neck and neck here. Not in a good way, though. We are the AFC South of NFL picks this year, as I am 41-50-3. And Hank's 39-52-3, although Hank does have a game up on me already because he did take the Cardinals to win last night, and I did take the Saints, and that did not happen. So Hank's off to a good start. I'm going to try and bounce back here. And, Nick, I think there's a trend here with these picks as we get you set for this Football Friday that I feel like there's going to be a lot of games with teams that are not going to cover. And actually, I was looking at this the other day. They posted a stat that I think it's like 67% of teams are just not covering this year.
It's a crazy statistic that teams are not covering. Teams that are way better, not covering. Teams that should not even be competing, covering. The Falcons stand out as one of those teams.
Yeah.
I just think Vegas is trying to tempt you to pick lines, and it's not working.
Well, we'll find out what happens this week. Another interesting slate of games. It's not the most, enticing slate. I think there's two very good ones, but nevertheless, here we'll give you these picks and see what we could do. So, Nick, you ready to roll?
Yep.
All right. Well, we get it going with an AFC North matchup. It's the Cleveland Browns traveling to Baltimore to take on the Baltimore Ravens, and we get it going with a Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, and Melanie Collins special on the NFL on CBS. Nick, the Baltimore Ravens are laying 6.5 points at home to start the Sunday slate.
The Browns, I don't know what to make of the Browns anymore. We picked them against the Patriots. The Patriots completely blew them out last week. Completely blew them out. Not even tried. The Browns were embarrassed by Zappe. And by the way, can we give credit to Zappe for the way he played over the last couple of weeks? It's not Cooper Rush, where Cooper Rush was at one point on Sunday Night Football throwing a quarterback rating of 1%. But I don't know. The Ravens are the better team. Now, we did hear Lamar Jackson was a little bit questionable injury-wise. J.K. Dobbins is out. By the way, I feel like whenever we hear his name, he's always hurt. Always hurt. And I think Lamar also, and tell me if I'm wrong, a lot of questionable decision-making on the field the last couple of weeks.
The last couple of weeks, there's definitely been some moments that look great, some moments that have definitely he's definitely struggled with. Yeah.
So, again, I didn't think this was going to be a tough game, but the Browns are not a good team. We're finally realizing the Browns are not a good team. So I took the Ravens to cover.
Yeah, I think the Browns, they looked good for the first 5 games or so, but last week against the Patriots was a reality check, and you give the Patriots a lot of credit because one of the things that they've been very good at so far this year is their defense has been very stifling. And yeah, Bailey Zappi played great too. He's been definitely a nice surprise for New England. But when I look at the Ravens too in this spot, I think the Ravens are better than what their record says. They built leads. They can't stay consistent though with them, and that's the thing. But here's what I would say with this game: I believe that the Ravens defense should be able to keep Nick Chubb in check. And that what that does then is force Jacoby Brissett into making plays, and well, that's a recipe for disaster. So the Browns' nice start. I think it's fading, and this is going to be another one. And now that this game is under a touchdown, I think it's good enough for me. So Ravens minus 6.5 in game number 1, and Hank is going to take. He is taking the Browns plus 6.5 in game number 1. So we are already different to start here on.
Who's calling the game?
It's a Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, Melanie Collins special on the NFL and CBS.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, at CBS, there's again the slate of games this week are not that great. So your better announcers. I mean, everybody's great. Don't get me wrong, but your top team announcers are probably not going to get the most enticing games this week.
I mean, what did I see? I saw the Eagles, the Vikings, the Bills were all on bye weeks this week.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, you just rattled off three of the top teams in the league so far.
I mean, the NFL did not think that one through, obviously, but I guess in their mind is if they get it out of the way now, you're going to see them playing the rest of the year. So,
yeah, I don't think even the NFL could predict, though, when you look at it, that really you could probably name the top 5 teams, and then everybody else is a crapshoot. And I think the Panthers are probably down there at the bottom. I think that's the only guarantee. Speaking of those Panthers, Nick, it's a Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilman, Shannon Spake special on the NFL on Fox. Those Carolina Panthers now minus Robbie Anderson, minus Christian McCaffrey are home to take on Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Folks, that is not a typo. The Buccaneers are 13-point road favorites in this matchup.
See, and this goes back to what I said at the beginning. I've said this for the past couple of weeks, that Vegas tries to tempt you with the lines. Hey, come check us out. The Bucs are minus 13. The Panthers are a throwaway. Now, the Panthers are a throwaway now. I mean, they've become the Marlins of the NFL, where they're basically fire selling everything for 30 cents on the dollar, except for McCaffrey, which they got like 5 picks for. And we're not talking about no slouch. They got some nice picks, and I think the Niners only have a 3rd round and a 5th round pick left for next year's draft. So it's a big number. Would you agree it's a big number?
It is a huge number, and it's the third straight week that the Buccaneers are laying a huge number.
And they failed multiple times.
They failed each of the last 2.
I mean, I think the difference, though, in this regard, not that it matters at the quarterback position, Baker's injured, but they would have lost with him anyway. I think PJ Walker was cleared to play, from what I understand. I don't think that makes much of a difference either, because now you don't have your top running back. You don't have your top receiver. Your defense is not great. But how do you look at a 13-point favorite with the Bucs and say you're confident that they're going to cover? I don't know. Do you have any resemblance here where to go?
So remember, 2 weeks ago, I took Tampa laying 10 against Atlanta. They were up 21-0. They didn't cover. They probably shouldn't have even won that game. Last week against the Steelers, I did the definition of insanity, and I went back to the Bucs on the road, laying 8.5 against the Steelers. Not only did they not cover, they did not win. This, though, I think is a little bit different, because to me, this is an angry Tom Brady Tampa Bay Buccaneers team.
I agree with you.
It reminds me of what Alabama, the Crimson Tide, are in college football. I think they are a mad Alabama team that played Saturday night against Mississippi State. So I think the third time, though, is going to be the charm. And look, with the Panthers, I mean, what else is there to say? There's no more Robbie Anderson, no Christian McCaffrey. They're playing without the injured Jeremy Chin, J.C. Horn, and I think that's going to allow Brady to hold the ball a little bit more. Call me insane, folks, but I'm going back to the well yet again. 31-10, something along those lines. Tampa Bay wins and covers against the Carolina Panthers, who are the worst team in football. And by the way, for the Panthers GM to say that this isn't a situation where we're trying to sell when we traded a number 1 receiver and you're trading Christian McCaffrey, I mean, Carolina fans, they're smart. Let me tell you, I know a bunch of them that live here. I've become friends with a lot of them. Some of them were actually very emotional on Friday, waking up to that news about Christian McCaffrey being traded. I
mean, come on. That's the GM playing PR damage control. I mean, look at what the Marlins did. I'll go back to what the Marlins, every year they would say, well, we're not trading. We're looking to bring in younger guys. No, you're not. You just don't want to pay the guys when their contracts are due. And McCaffrey is different because I think he's signed all the way through 2025. And I think he's got quite a bit of money left on at least the next 2 years. And I think 2025 was like $1 million. So they were looking to get out from under the money, in my opinion, even though the owner is not poor by any means. They need a lot of help. But I'm going to take them to cover. I think that if it wasn't for McCaffrey being traded, I might have gone against that 13 points. But yeah, you got to take them to cover. The Panthers are the worst team in football right now.
And again, I think this is the Bucs are mad because of the way they played last Sunday against Pittsburgh. I think this is a great chance for them to rebound. And if they don't, and if they lose this game, they'll be playing Nick's sound effect alarm a ton down there in Tampa. There's some teams that's going to be with after this week, but I don't think it's going to be with Tampa. We're going to try one more time, folks. Third time's the charm with Tampa laying a big number here. I'm going to take Tampa minus 13 in game number 2, and Hank will also grab the 13 with Tampa to win and cover against the Panthers.
By the way, let me throw one more statistic at you. I guess if you want to call it a fun fact, you can.
Sure.
But the Bucs and the Packers are 3-3, and the Jets are 4-2.
Let me tell you, this league is just it's a week-to-week league. It's unpredictable. I mean, you think about it. The Jets are top 5. The Jets and the Giants are top 5, top 7 teams in the league.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just crazy to think that that's where they are. We'll see if they can keep it going here. I know the Jets are entering a good, challenging part of their schedule coming up here soon. We'll see if the Giants can keep this going as well. But it's crazy. That's where we are right now in football.
We'll see what happens.
I think, though, the top echelon teams like the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Eagles, and I would even put the Chargers in there right now. I mean, despite the fact they're not playing that great and they're still 4-2, I mean, that's scary. Think about it. I mean, they're not even at full strength and they're still 4-2.
I'm a little afraid of the Chiefs, but I'll save it for when we get there.
Right. No, I mean, there's definitely some concerning points with the Chiefs as well, but they've still got to be right up there. But I think we all agree that Tampa's going to dominate this game. Well, hopefully, in terms of our picks here against Carolina in game number 2. It's a Brandon Good and Robert Smith and Jen Hale special on the NFL on Fox. Nick, the Atlanta Falcons travel to Cincinnati to take on Joe Burrow and the Bengals, and the Bengals are 6.5-point home favorites.
I told you this before we started. I was so close to taking plus points here because the Bengals, and agree or disagree with me if you want, the Bengals have been a major disappointment so far in offensively. I don't know about defensively, but offensively, they're just not on the same page. Burrow's not on the same page. Jamar Chase finally decided to wake up and be the wide receiver he was supposed to be last week, but for some reason, they're not throwing him the football. Take it for what you will. I don't know what the problem is between those two. The Falcons, I have to give you credit on this one. The Falcons have been competitive in every game so far that they've played this year. Everyone thought they were just going to lay down and not be competitive. I mean, if you're being competitive with Marcus Mariota, you can be competitive with anybody.
Yeah.
So, but the Bengals need to win this game. This is panic time. You were talking about panic sound effects earlier. This is panic. The Bengals need to win the game. So I'm taking them to cover. They better win, or you're going to be raising the panic flags if they don't win. So cover.
Well, it's funny. So I look at this matchup, and it's funny. So I said that the Falcons were going to be the worst team in the NFL this year. Well, I was in the right division. It just turns out I picked the wrong team. But look at this matchup, Nick, and look at the talent for both offenses. When I did some research for this one, and then you look at the Falcons ranking. They ranked 7th in offensive efficiency. The Bengals are 21st. And just look, and again, look at the talent on both sides. The Falcons' undermanned offense, look at how they're playing. Their offensive line is playing. To me, that's coaching, really, right there. You want to talk about a good head coach? I mean, right down in Atlanta. And also, in 2022, Marcus Mariota playing a perfect first half against the 49ers. I mean, who would have thunk that? But the Bengals defense, they've given up 383 rushing yards over the last 2 weeks, and I think they can actually struggle to get off the field here. And you know how he was talking about the whole covering bit, how teams just don't cover. Well, I think the Bengals could win. I also wouldn't be surprised if they don't win, but I'm taking the Falcons to stay undefeated against the spread, and I'm going to take the 6.5 points with Atlanta, and I almost wouldn't even be surprised if they win this game outright. But I will grab the 6.5 here with Atlanta to stay undefeated against the spread because I think they will keep this game really close. And the Bengals also play close games too.
That's not the one. That's not the one where I thought you had said they might win outright. Interesting.
Wouldn't be surprised. I do have a couple of upset specials. I have like a half upset special here because I will grab the points with Atlanta at the bare minimum, getting 6.5. But you're right, though. The Bengals have struggled too, and I think the only thing that's fortunate with them also is that the Ravens have also been a struggle in the early going as well.
Can you imagine if Lamar was actually on tack playing well? This might have been a runaway already.
Well, it's not only just Lamar; it's also that defense for the Ravens. The Ravens' defense has not been great so far in the early going too.
No, but I'm saying the fundamentals of Lamar have not been great the past couple weeks. I mean, call it what you will, because I know as Giant fans have said, if Lamar doesn't make that horrible throw, that game might be different. What I'm pointing out is that Lamar has not been using his brain to the 100% capability and not throwing the football away a lot lately, and throwing a lot of bad picks.
Yeah, and they need him. And in the early going, he actually was playing like an MVP in the first couple of weeks there too. But in terms of this game, Falcons plus 6.5. That's what I'm going to go with. Hank's also taking the Falcons plus the points as well. So I think we're both on the Falcon cover train in this spot. It's a Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, and Tracy Wolfson special on the NFL on CBS. Nick, it's the Detroit Lions coming off their bye week. They travel down to Dallas, Big D, to take on Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys are a 6.5-point home favorite in this one. Nick, I'll take this one here first. And yes, the Lions are coming off their bye week. And I think I picked the Lions in pretty much every game. I think I have picked them in every game heading into their bye week, but that stops this week. I think the Cowboys pass rush is going to give Detroit a lot of problems, just like Belichick and the Pats did before their bye week back in week 5. And think about this too. The Wednesday after the bye week, the Lions still had 8 players on the injury report, and maybe Swift, maybe St. Brown come back, and that'd be great news. But I think Dak's return is going to give the Cowboys too much juice to pick against them. So I'm going to take the Cowboys to win and cover in this matchup.
I mean, they were talking about Amon St. Brown being a major injury last couple weeks. They need him to, or that offense does not go. They need him to play. Jared Goff is Jared Goff. I've said this many times. Jared Goff got traded away from the Rams a couple of years ago because he could not play under the bright lights in LA. And now we're starting to see that Matt Stafford is having those struggles and getting hurt and all that stuff. I mean, this is pretty simple. Cooper Rush was holding them back, obviously, because Dak was hurt and couldn't play. Now that you have someone in that can throw the football, now, is it going to be rusty after not playing for 4 weeks, 5 weeks? And you're going to get some rust coming off not playing. But I think the Cowboys are way better with him in there. The defense has been holding up this team. That's why they've been winning. They're not winning because of Cooper Rush. They were winning because the defense was just playing well. And I think Dak is coming back at the right time because the defense can't win games forever. So take the Cowboys to cover.
Yeah. Cooper was making enough plays, but he came back to earth big time there on Sunday night. And again, I picked the Lions almost every week. I think I didn't pick them opening week against the Eagles, but I've been on their train a lot this year, but it's starting to fade. That's another thing that's starting to fade too. And they need St. Brown back in the worst way. Maybe Swift comes back, but again, they've had their bye week and still so many injuries that they're dealing with. So it's just not a good sign there for Dan Campbell's squad. And I think the Cowboys win this one by at least a touchdown. And you know what? Now that line's come down, it was at 7 for the most part, came down to 6.5 on Friday. I'm gonna grab it, and even if the Cowboys win by a touchdown, that's good enough. So the Cowboys to win and cover. Hank likes the Lions though, and he's also been on the Lion train as well. He's going to grab the Lions plus 6.5. And
Interesting.
We'll see if Detroit can at least make this one interesting. Of course, we all hoping as Giant fans that the Lions can pull the upset special. I just don't see it with all the injuries that they're dealing with. So we'll take the Cowboys, at least for me and you, minus 6.5 there in Dallas. Chris Myers, Mark Schlereth, Christina Pink special on the NFL on Fox. The New York Football Giants, NFL's one of the best stories in the league. They're 5-1. They go down to Jacksonville to take on Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. And one of the big controversies this week is that the Jaguars are a 3-point home favorite.
Yeah, I was kind of confused by this. And I was telling Johnny beforehand when we did picks on Empty the Bench that pretty much, and I don't want to spoil it, but I looked at New York teams differently this week just because they're playing much better than I really expected, to be honest. Trevor Lawrence does not look great. Trevor Lawrence looks like he's rushing throws. It's not. First of all, I don't think their wide receivers are great. Who's their one threat? Christian Kirk. That's their one threat in the wide receiver game. They don't have a running game. They just don't look great. And the Giants are riding a heater right now. And Saquon Barkley is probably probably is the best running back in all of football right now. I dare someone to challenge that opinion because it's going to be hard to. I think he was averaging like 150 rushing yards a game at one point. Like he's out of this world. Now, the one thing, just got to be careful. Daniel Jones doesn't fall back into his old ways and doesn't start throwing picks. The Jaguars can still be a threat defensively. They always have been. But I think Vegas is trying to tempt you to pick the Jaguars. And the Giants are the better team. Take the Giants +3.
So when I was talking to some friends about this week, and if this game was at a neutral site, like let's say we put this game in Nebraska for some reason, or let's even go to London, I think the Giants would be a 1 to 2 point favorite. That's what
I'd say more. I'd say more.
You know what though? The thing is, Nick. So I've looked at both. I've watched a lot of Jaguar games, a lot of Jaguar highlights this year, and the crazy thing is the Giants and the Jaguars are actually pretty equal. There's one big difference, though, in that the Giants have been able to close out games and the Jaguars have not. And the big key, though, for the Giants is to pressure Trevor Lawrence because he definitely struggles under pressure. He looks like a different quarterback. He looks like a scared quarterback when you get to him. So I see Dexter Lawrence being a big factor. And then also on the other side of the ball, and you were talking about it with Daniel Jones, you know what? Evan Neal, Andrew Thomas, they've got to continue to play like Pro Bowl quality because they've got 2 pass rushers to the Jaguars themselves. You know, Trayvon Walker, who they drafted with their first pick this year. Josh Allen, the defensive end, who should have been a Giant, by the way, but I digress. Both Josh Allen should have been Giants, but I digress. But that's a key. So both sides of the ball are big, but you could definitely see this with how equal they really are, that this game could come down to the last possession. And I even could envision a way that Jacksonville wins this game, say like 22-20. And even if that's the case, then then the Giants +3 would be the pick. It would be the play here. I am going to take the Giants +3. I think this game's going to be close because I don't think either team can blow each other out. But you also have to watch from the Giants side of things too. Travis Etienne, the running back, you know, Trevor Lawrence's teammate back in Clemson in the Clemson days, now here as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is actually going to be a very intriguing matchup. But I think the Giants just eke out a win. If not, maybe it's a 2-point game, and I'm getting 3 points here. Keep the disrespect coming. I'm taking the Giants +3 in an upset special, and Hank's also going to grab the Giants +3. I know him and I were both doing a show on Thursday night, and we were saying that. So Giants +3 all the way around down in Jacksonville. Oh, here's the game that we were all looking forward to. Speaking of the AFC South, not really, that's sarcasm, folks. The AFC South, the good old AFC South. The Indianapolis Colts and Tennessee Titans meet once again, and it's an Andrew Catalon, James Lofton, Don Bell special on the NFL on CBS. The Tennessee Titans at home laying 2.5 points.
This is bad. This is bad football. I made this example on Empty the Bench. I said, this is a bad version of the NFC East now in the AFC South, where the AFC South has taken the title. And Matt Ryan pisses me off in a lot of ways because Matt Ryan makes that amazing, I don't know what you want to call it, Hail Mary chuck of a throw to the end zone to win, what was that, last week? And I don't know what to make of Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is done, in my opinion. I don't think he's going anywhere. But you and I were talking that Jonathan Taylor is back, Hines is back. That might actually affect the game here. This is a true pick-em, right?
Pretty much. I mean, unless you think the Colts can keep it within 2 points.
I don't like Matt Ryan. I mean, I'm going to stick with my gut and take the Titans to cover.
Yeah, every year, there's one team that I struggle to figure out with, and I know I spoke to you about this before we started, and this year it's the Colts. And they, like last week, they score 4 touchdowns against a good Jaguar defense, but that comes after going almost two games without scoring one. Jonathan Taylor being back is going to definitely help. That's part of the reason why Matt Ryan's had to do so much there, because Taylor hasn't been healthy. It looks like he's back now and he's going to play. But I'm going to take the Titans for 2 reasons. To me, they have the better defensive line, and the big runs that the Colts gave up last week are very worrisome. I think Derrick Henry can go for a big spot. This might be one of the quicker games of the week because there's going to be a lot of running. But I like the Titans laying 2.5 So I am taking Tennessee laying 2.5 here to win and cover against the Colts. And both teams are over 500 right now. I don't know how long that's going to last. But yeah, I'm going to grab the Titans to win and cover. And Hank's also got the Titans to win and cover in this AFC South matchup. It's an Adam Admin, Daryl Moose Johnson, Pam Oliver special on the NFL on Fox. Nick, it's Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers going on the road to take on Taylor Heineke and the Washington Commanders. And the Packers are a 4.5-point road favorite.
This is a crapshoot. This is a literal crapshoot. No one, and I told Johnny we do this on Empty the Bench as well, that I usually give one game where I do a lock and one game where I say gamblers beware. This is gamblers beware right here. Do not touch this game. Unless you're a gambling savant or you need to go to Gamblers Anonymous because you gamble on everything, I would stay away from this game at all costs. There's injuries left and right. Wide receivers on each side are hurt. And Johnny, you were saying this before. Who is Aaron Rodgers throwing to? Who?
Who's he throwing to? Is he fully healthy?
He's not fully healthy.
I mean, that thumb is really a big issue. I mean, he looked lost against my Giants. He looked lost against your Jets. And now he's down even more guys at the receiving side. I mean, it's not good.
The Commanders are without Carson Wentz. The Commanders are without their wide receiver also.
Yeah, Dotson, yeah.
This is tough. I mean, I think Lazard is healthy. That's your number one, I guess, on the Packers side. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is going to play. It's not a matter of if he's going to play.
Right, that's not the issue.
So, I guess you got to go with Aaron Rodgers, I guess, because he's the better QB. Heineke is a question mark. He hasn't played. So, I'm going to take them to cover, but it's not a confident cover.
Yeah, so again, like I was talking about, the trend here, teams covering, is that going to happen here? I was more confident with the selection when the Packers were a 5.5-point favorite. Now it's come down to 4.5, and I think that's kind of where you see the betting public going at with this one. I tell you, I don't think Green Bay can lose 3 games in a row, but look at the Washington side for a second here. You think Heineke might be able to give this team a little bit of a boost, and also they have a few extra days off in this spot. You remember Green Bay, they had to go from London to back home, now on the road to Washington. And Green Bay's also got pass protection problems, and that is one of the best parts, if not the best part of this Commanders team, with Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen. I don't know if Green Bay could lose 3 in a row, but I'll tell you right now, I'm going to take the Commanders plus 4.5. Maybe it's a 23-19 game. I can't see Green Bay losing 3 in a row, but the Packers have a lot of problems, and the Commanders had a very emotional win. You saw Ron Rivera's press conference 10 days ago against the Bears, but I'm gonna go with him here, at least with the points, and don't even be surprised if somehow they pull this out. And then those alarms, once again, they'll be going off. But I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna take the Commanders plus 4.5.
That's crazy. I mean, by the way, if the Commanders win, there's going to be more than alarms sounding off in Green Bay.
How about a 23-19 final? Something along those lines, because Green Bay can't blow anybody out. They just don't have the talent right now, and I just think it's going to be a big problem here.
I'm just going to say that there's going to be massive problems in Cheesehead world if there's a loss to the Commanders. So that would be the Giants, the Jets, and the Commanders.
Yeah, this one would actually be the worst of them all. And also, though, Green Bay is, they're 2 games behind already in the NFC North, and really 3 because they already have lost to the Vikings once already.
I mean, you could pretty much say the Vikings game cost them 2 games because of divisional intake. So they're not going to win the division. That's just my gut.
Well, let's go with the cover central here. Commanders plus 4.5. But Hank's going to agree with you. He does have the Packers to win and cover in this matchup.
It's not a confident cover. Let's put it that way.
No, and you're right. If there were games to stay away from, this would be one of them. But we've got to pick every game, so we got to make a selection here. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to go for the Commanders plus 4.5. Nick and Hank are both going to take the Packers to win and cover in Washington. Well, Jets and Broncos, Nick, your New York Football Jets. It's an Iron Eagle, Charles Davis, Evan Washburn special on the NFL on CBS. The Broncos, talk about a disrespectful line. So the Broncos opened up as a 3-point favorite, but as the week has gone on, more people are riding on the Jet train, and this line now has come down. As of now, the Broncos are laying 1 at Mile High.
I'm sorry, this is disrespectful towards the Jets in every way, shape, or form. The Jets have been the better team the last 3 to 4 weeks up there with the Giants, but New York football actually has some respect going on in the NFL. The Broncos, on the other hand, Russell Wilson is questionable. That's confirmed. A game time decision. Now, we hear that BS all the time because they want to put everything in the headlines and make a dramatic intake for the Broncos. But the Broncos are one of the worst red zone teams in all the NFL this year. It's shocking considering they actually have some weapons and they're not using them. The offensive line for Denver is not great. It's kind of in shambles. Their defense is fine. Their defense makes stops. But their offensive line is going to cost them points because the Jets have one of the better defenses in all of the NFL.
Right.
So this is disrespectful. Take the Jets +1. This is not even a question.
Lowest scoring game of the week alert right here. I think it's going to be kind of low scoring. 19-16, not out of the realm of possibility. I have 2 concerns, though, with the Jets in this matchup. And I'm wondering, can they win another road game without a passing attack? I think that's the challenge because the 2 other things I would say, so that's 1. Actually, there's 3. So can they win a game without another passing attack? 2, does the Mile High air really do play a factor in this one? I know it's been talked about a lot this week. Is that a factor? And 3, don't sleep on this Broncos defense. Everything that we talk about with the Broncos has to start with Russell Wilson and the offense, and like you said, the offensive line. But that defense is the third best in I was going to say in the country. It's the 3rd best in the league this year. That is something to watch. That's why I think this game is actually going to be really close. I do agree, though. I am taking the Jets to pull this one out, but I think it's going to get to be very, very close and at times uncomfortable.
Well, I think this is going to be one on a defensive play. That's my gut. I think that the Jets, and we saw last week, the Jets and the Packers blocked a punt against the Packers. What happened? Momentum shift. And the Jets never look back. So I think the Jets are going to make a defensive play to win this game somehow.
Well, that's a very fair point. I could definitely see that being the case, but I'm going to take the Jets as well, +1. And Hank also grabs the Jets +1 against the Broncos. It's Greg Gumbel, Adam Archuleta, and AJ Ross special on the NFL on CBS. Nick, the Houston Texans coming off their bye week travel to Allegiant Stadium to take on the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Raiders are laying a touchdown at home.
See, the Raiders have kind of been a disappointment to me as well. They're not playing great. The Texans, is the Davis Mills experience really a factor in this game? I don't know. You have to take the Raiders. The Texans are not a great team, but from what I remember you saying, the Texans have been competitive in every game for the most part so far. But I think you have to take the Raiders. Now, we did have the incident last week on Monday Night Football with Devontae Adams, and I think he's going to play. I don't think the charge stops him from playing.
Yeah, the policy allows him to play on Monday night. I'm sorry, on this Sunday.
But, by the way, that situation was nuts. I still think, in my opinion, and everyone seems to disagree with me, that you watch the guy run in front of Devontae Adams as he's going into the tunnel. I think you don't. Let me clarify. You're not, as an NFL player, you shouldn't hit anybody. But I think the cameraman was kind of enticing him as he was going through the tunnel. But the Raiders need to win this game. The Davis Mills experience does not win many games. Cover.
Yeah. I actually like the Texans getting points in this spot. I know the Raiders' offense going into the bye week, their bye week was sharp, 2 straight games in a row. But you know what? You look at the Texans, and they've been in every game. And, yeah, I don't like Davis Mills, but I love their running back, Damian Pierce. He's been fantastic over there. And, again, they've been competitive. And even with the offense rolling for the Raiders, there's still something about the team that's just missing. And the Texans do have one of the best backs in the league. I think they can keep it competitive. And this would actually be my bold upset special if I really wanted to go that far. But I'm going to grab the points here with the Texans on the road plus the 7 But Hank will also agree with you. He's going to take the Raiders to win and cover as well. And sooner or later, the Raiders are going to have to get things going here too. I mean, they're falling. Any talk about them in this AFC West is falling down the drain. I mean, you're 1-4, and you're going against with two great teams there in the Chargers and the Chiefs. So
Derek Carr's got to step up and play big boy football. He's not doing it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, they've had two good offensive showings now, but again, there's just something that seems to be still lacking there with the Raiders, and I think that's why the Texans, coming off their off week, I think they can make this very, very interesting and surprise a lot of teams. I'm not going to go. I mean, I would say upset special, but I'm going to at least at the bare minimum grab the points here with the Texans on the road in this spot. So let's take the Texans +7 as the play against the Raiders in this spot.
Also, the chemistry has not been great for Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. That's been a fact since the season has started. They're not on the same page. They're not taking advantage of Devontae Adams, who's great at separation down the field. They're not doing it. And until they figure that out, they're not going to win games.
And a lot of people at the start of the season assumed that was going to be a given.
They thought that was going to be the number one tandem for the whole season. Oops.
Yeah, not there. I mean, I know they got Hunter Renfrow too, and I know he's been kind of banged up this year, but that was a given, and it hasn't worked out that way. And the Raiders have to have this game because any talk about them in this division is going to go by the wayside. You can't fall 3 games behind and still have these guys coming up. It's not going to look good there in Vegas for sure.
Their division hopes are gone. I would just say that at this point.
Yeah, you have to keep up with these guys, and they just have not been able to do that. Like they had to win that game again, even though they made it very close at the end. They had to win that game against KC on the road to really have a golden chance. But to me, the Chiefs and the Chargers are on a whole nother level versus the Raiders and the Broncos. So I think the Raiders will win, but I'm going to grab the 7 with the Texans in this spot. Kevin Kugler, Mark Sanchez, and Laura Oakman special on the NFL on Fox. Nick, the Seattle Seahawks travel to SoFi Stadium to take on Justin Herbert and the LA Chargers, and the Chargers are a 5-point favorite at home.
So I just pulled up the Chargers Twitter account. They put out their injury reports. So questionable: Keenan Allen, Sebastian Joseph Day, both questionable. So, and then Dustin Hopkins, Joshua Kelly, Joshua Palmer, and Donald Parham Jr. out. So they have a lot of people out. I think this is on the record. We've all said it. Brandon Staley's not a great coach. He's made a lot of boneheaded decisions. And I don't know. What do you think about Brandon Staley?
Oh, Nick, I spoke with you and Tom at the start when we did our NFL preview show. That is the biggest concern to me with the LA Chargers, because I actually think if they're fully healthy, I think they're better than the Chiefs. The problem is it's the head coach. That's the ultimate thing that's going to hold them back here. Now, this year they've not been healthy, and they have not looked that sharp. And at the same time, they're still 4-2, and they're tied with the Chiefs. That I think is scary. I think it can be dangerous. If they can get fully healthy and stuff, I think that they can still win this division. And remember, they still do have a matchup later on in the season against the Chiefs at SoFi Stadiums.
They need to get Herbert healthy. That's the big thing. Some of the decision-making by Staley not to remove him out of blowout games, that'll be the thing that's going to rest in my mind when they don't make the playoffs or they get in and then they're not able to compete. I don't understand. Herbert keeps saying, I want to play. You as the coach need to say, get off the field. We can't, either we're winning the game by 20, 25 points, or we're losing by 20, 25 points. Get off the field. You're going to get hurt.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of rib injury that he's dealing with is going to linger now through the entire season.
A rib injury for a football player is kind of like a hamstring or a wrist injury for an MLB player. You could play through it, but it's going to be a pain, and you're going to have to manage it all season. Keenan Allen being questionable, either being out or questionable, is a problem for the Chargers, not being healthy. Yeah. I think that's a big deal. The Seahawks have been playing amazing football. Talk about shocks and surprises of the year. Geno Smith. Did we all raise your hand if you had Geno Smith at the top? Put your hand down. You're lying.
Not.
As I steal a Hank special there.
Yeah.
But you're lying if you had Geno Smith on your board of surprise quarterbacks playing well. I mean, I can't believe I'm going to say this, and I'm a Chargers guy. Take the Seahawks plus the point.
I'm tempted to do it, and this line was, I think it was at 6 at one point, and I'm feel a little bit better that it's coming down. But Nick, I think the problem is that at the end of the day, I think the Chargers, even despite their injuries, and even with Joey Bosa still in the middle of being out of an 8 to 10 week stretch right now, to me the Chargers are still just too talented. That's the thing. I think even by a touchdown is still good enough. So as tempted as I am to take Seattle +5, I'm just not going to do it. I'm gonna take the Chargers to win and cover in this one. And even if Keenan Allen doesn't play, and the fact that he's questionable is actually an improvement, but still, I wouldn't rush him back. To me, the Chargers are still too talented. They can get him back later in the season and go from there. But I'm going to take the Chargers to win and cover in this spot. And Hank has the Chargers as well in this matchup. But I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being even a field goal. Seahawks maybe make it kind of interesting. I mean, they were right up there with the Saints. They beat the Cardinals at home last week. That's another thing too. Let's say this game's up there in Seattle. I think it's an entirely different thing we're talking about here. But I still think the Chargers are too good, and 5 points to me is just enough for me to take them to win and cover in this spot. But we'll find out. Well, this is the game of the week in my opinion, and it's definitely been taken up to a whole nother notch with the news of the last 24 hours. It's the Kansas City Chiefs traveling on the road to take on the San Francisco 49ers. So kind of it's a Super Bowl rematch with Patrick Mahomes against Jimmy G. There you go, Jimmy Garoppolo. And the Fox's A-team, Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olsen, Aaron Andrews, Tom Rinaldi on the NFL on Fox. Nick, the Chiefs, a 2-point favorite on the road.
Yeah, this game is interesting. Just getting CMC in a trade with the Panthers. Obviously, their running game needed some help in a big way because it just did not look healthy. Having Jimmy G back, and a lot of people are now questioning whether Trey Lance is really the future of the Niners after getting hurt and really playing. Patrick Mahomes looked great for the most part last week against the Bills until he made that bad interception throw at the end of the game. Their defense is not great, the Chiefs. They need a lot of help on defense. Their whole mantra is, can we outscore our defense? That's pretty much what they are this year. And that's why I still think the Bills are a better team than the Chiefs. And I think they're going to survive just because they can play both sides of the football. The Chiefs can't really play both sides of the football. They're getting beat defensively. But I still think Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. And you still have Kelsey. You have the best tight end in all of the NFL. I don't know. Do you think CMC makes a difference right off the bat?
It's such a short time. You know, he gets traded late Thursday night. Trade officially is announced on Friday. He's traveling across the country. I don't know how much of a factor he's going to be. But as far as this game, I think he will make some impact. And yeah, I think the defense for the Chiefs, I've said it all along, is a major thing. That's why if you are the Charger, you have to win. You have to finish with a better record because I think that is you are better all around than the Chiefs. I'm not saying on offense. I'm saying all around. That's why I said before the season, I believe the Chargers are a better team all around than the Chiefs. But here's the thing also with this matchup. The 49ers defense is not healthy too. So we talk about the Chiefs defense. The 49ers defense is a problem as of right now. We saw that last week in Atlanta. Look at how Marcus Mariota had a perfect passing first half, albeit 8 passes, but still, he had over 100 yards in the first half. That you don't do in that spot. So the 49ers defense being as banged up as it is the reason why this line is low enough for me to take the Chiefs. And I think it will be kind of a shootout battle, but Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid do not lose consecutive games. And I think they bounce back in this spot. I'm going to take the Chiefs to win and cover in this matchup.
Also, the Chiefs don't lose shootouts. Like when they're in a competitive game, they push the right buttons in the right situations to win these games. I mean, think all the way back to when the Chiefs played the Bills in the playoff game. They pushed the right buttons, a la 13 seconds with 3 timeouts and record-breaking getting down the field. But I'm with you. I think the Chiefs, I think they're going to win this game. Not just cover. I think they're going to win this game outright. Like you said, I was concerned last week when the Falcons beat the Niners. Like, that shouldn't have happened at all. The Niners were the way better team, not just better, way better team than the Falcons, and they just lapse in judgment all game.
Yeah.
Take the Chiefs to plus points.
Yep. And Hank's also got the Chiefs winning this game as well, and what should be a very entertaining game over there. But you're right, though. If in a high-scoring game, the Chiefs are more comfortable playing high-scoring games than low-scoring ones. We even saw that we saw that in the last week, obviously with the Bills, and we've seen it in other situations too. If the Chiefs get into a low-scoring, close game, they don't fare out well. So we'll find out what they do here against the 49ers. Sunday Night Football on NBC. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, and Melissa Stark as the Pittsburgh Steelers with Kenny Pickett back under center travel down to Miami. Boy, it's been a long time since Miami's had a Sunday night game. But it's Kenny Pickett and the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. And the Dolphins now favorites by 7.5.
Can we just make sure we don't have a muddy field this time?
I think the weather's supposed to be all right. I have not checked my radar 3000 here, though. But
you do know what I'm referring to.
Oh,
right?
of course. Yeah.
For most people who don't remember, the last time these two played, it was a complete mud hole when they played. And
right.
And it was dangerous, and they probably should have not played the game, to be honest. And the field conditions were awful. First of all, this should not be a Sunday night football game. This is why? Why is this a Sunday night football game?
I could tell you why. Pittsburgh, Steelers, the historical Pittsburgh Steelers, and Miami was a team that actually really. I told you guys also. I think Miami's a wild card team if they're fully healthy and stuff.
I mean, I'm still questioning whether the Dolphins' chemistry is there with Tua being out for as long as he was. I think that hurt them with any divisional chances that they or aspirations they had. The Steelers are a question mark to me too. You don't know which team you're going to get every week between Kenny Pickett and Mitchell Trubisky, whether who's going to play. I like Kenny Pickett, but Kenny Pickett's going to have growing pains before he plays consistent football. With Tua being back, you have to lean on the Dolphins in the cover, just because I think Tua, along with Waddle, along with who's a wide receiver, I'm forgetting all of a sudden.
You've got Waddle, you've got Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill, that's right.
Mike Gesicki, tight end.
Yeah, their team is just better. They have the better names. They're more equipped to win. Kenny Pickett's having some growing pains, throwing a lot of odd interceptions instead of either running out of bounds or going down. He almost has the Sam Darnold effect to me a little bit when he was with the Jets, where Sam Darnold felt like he had to force a pass rather than throwing the ball away. So, yeah, take the Dolphins to cover. I just think they're the better team.
Yeah, see, the thing is also with the Steelers, how banged up is their defense? We still know T.J. Watt's out, but that's another thing that was so crazy about last week. Almost their entire secondary was out last week, and they still were able to get the job done. But if that secondary is going to be out again this Sunday, Tua can exploit that. One thing about Tua, everybody's talking about he can't throw the deep ball. If you actually watch his games this year, his deep throws have actually not been that bad. Tyreek being there is such a big deal. If you double team him, then you go to his Alabama teammate Waddle. That's what's amazing about all that, and I think he's going to be able to do that in this spot. But one other name to watch on the Dolphins side of things is left tackle Teron Armstead. He's been out, and if he comes back, it looks like he's trending towards playing in this game on Sunday. That's a huge deal too, because the drop-off at left tackle for the Dolphins has been, you almost could say, even more severe than the quarterback spot, because Greg Little and Brandon Shell allowed 16 pressures the last 2 weeks. I mean, this happens again in this spot. Tua is going to be running for his life, and you're going to be bracing for another hit, and you don't want to do that. So, I know the Steelers team has been competitive a lot of the time outside of that game against the Bills, but Tua brings life back to the Dolphins. I think they win this game by at least 10. So I'm going to take the Dolphins to win and cover. And one other thing to watch for in this Sunday night game, the return of Brian Flores on the sideline there with the Steelers.
I think people are making way more out of that than they need to, because the NFL loves to create drama and situations, especially on their Sunday night football, their Monday night football, anything that's on primetime. They purposely look to create storylines out of things that don't need storylines. So I think they're making spectacles out of things that don't need to be.
Yeah, it'll be a little something though. But in terms of this game, I think the Dolphins win this game by 2 scores. So Dolphins win and cover on Sunday night. Hank's also taking the Dolphins to win and cover on Sunday Night Football.
The other thing I just want to add is I think the Steelers are going to be a little bit more careful defensively, knowing that Tua was the headline of these massive hits. So I think the refs are also going to be a little more on their toes with hits around Tua, knowing that they really screwed up. And so I think the Steelers are going to play a little tentatively defensively.
Well, we will find out there on Sunday night. We wrap up week 7 in Foxborough. The Chicago Bears take on the New England Patriots. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, and Lisa Salters on Monday Night Football on ESPN. Nick, it looks like it's trending towards a Mac Jones return as the Patriots lay 8 points at home against Justin Fields and the Bears.
Yeah, this was a very quick pick on Empty the Bench. It was literally, just to go behind the curtain, a 12-second clip when we all picked our pick for this game officially. The Bears stink. Take the Patriots to cover.
Yeah, doesn't matter who starts at quarterback for the Patriots, except maybe Brian Hoyer returned. But
I mean,
no, Bailey's,
I'll give you a joke if you want to go with it. Put a ghost, since we're coming up on Halloween anyway. You could put a ghost behind center; they would still win.
Yeah, Bears defense, just from its run stopping to the pass rush, just hasn't been good. I think this is not going to be pretty. And let's also remember, too, the Patriots, we're talking about the quarterback. Let's talk about their defense and how great it's been these last several weeks. As much as we wanted to, put the Patriots down, and they've been rising back up, and their defense has definitely helped in a big way. I think this continues here. I think this is going to be very, very ugly. I'm going to take the Pats to win and cover to end up this week. But Hank is taking the Bears +8. He's taking them versus the spread, so I don't think he's taking them to win outright in an upset special, but I think he's grabbing the Bears +8. Maybe he thinks it ends up being a little bit closer, maybe a touchdown, a backdoor touchdown spot, but he's got the Bears plus points, but I'm going to take the Pats to win. I think this is going to be a long night for Buck and Aikman in the booth, but they're not used to calling these kind of matchups, but that's what it's going to be here. So Patriots +8 is my play here to wrap up week number 7 in the National Football League. Well, Nick, we'll find out what happens. Obviously, there's a lot of – this is a big week for football, both college and pro. Obviously, the big news right now as we start this weekend is the trade of Christian McCaffrey going to the 49ers. And how does that make the 49ers? That'll be one of our topics that we discuss on episode 30 of Game On coming up this Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. So certainly a lot to do there. Of course, the baseball playoffs, basketball, hockey, any of the breaking news that happens between now and then. This is that sports equinox time. We just had a sports equinox on Thursday, and I'm sure we'll have more of that coming up. So it'll be a very, very exciting time as always. And already episode 30 of our show. And of course, Nick, you can catch Nick along with Nick Federa and Tom Albano over there on Empty the Bench Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern as well. So Nick, thanks for joining us again today. Enjoy your football weekend.
Looking forward to it. Hopefully, with all the buys, we get some decent football, maybe.
Yep, we'll find out what happens. But so for Nick Morgasen and Hank Indictor, I'm Johnny Montalbano. Enjoy your football weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to you again next week.